Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are on page 235 of your student journal, and we are going to be continuing with patterns, but our goal or our objective for today is I will find patterns using a multiplication chart. Okay, so that is our goal today. Let's look at our vocabulary really quickly. Our first word says even numbers and odd numbers. So this is just reminding us what the even numbers are and what the odd numbers are. Then we have what the commutative property of multiplication is, and it says factors can be multiplied in any order and the product, meaning the answer, will be the same. So A times B equals B times A. So an example of this would be like 5 times 3 is 15, but it's the same as 3 times 5. That's also going to give me 15. So I can switch the order of them, and I can do that with any of my facts. So 12 times 2 is 24, and that's the same as 2 times 12. So that's the commutative property. The other property is the identity property of multiplication, and it says the product, meaning the answer of any number multiplied by 1, is that number. So C times 1 equals C. So an example of this would be if I multiplied 3 times 1, my answer is going to be 3. So the identity doesn't change when you multiply it by 1. So 6 times 1 is going to be 6, and that will be the case for any number with multiplication. And then they're just reminding us about some multiplication vocabulary, that the two numbers that I multiply are called factors, and my answer is called a product. And then we have what is a pattern? A sequence of numbers that follow a rule, and then the rule is the statement that explains the sequence of pattern. The rule is what is the pattern telling us? Okay, so I'm going to jump right in and get started. Today I'm going to be using a crayon again, so it'd be helpful if you had a light colored crayon or a highlighter or a marker. Okay, here is my first problem. And it says, what happens when two even factors are multiplied together? So when two even factors are multiplied together, and even's my key word there. Use the multiplication table to determine your answer and give 2 examples to support your answer. So if two even numbers, well, my even numbers are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. And on this side of my multiplication chart, I'm going to zoom out so you can see a little bit more. On this side of my multiplication chart, I also have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Okay, so what happens, similar to my addition chart, the way that this works is I just choose 2 numbers and then where they meet is my answer. So 2 times 2 is 4. Let's find some others. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 8 is 16. Let's try something other than 2. 4 times 4 is 16. Maybe 4 times 8 is 32. Let's go down to 6 maybe. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 12 is 72. And I could keep going, but I think I'm kind of seeing enough that it seems to me that when I multiply 2 even numbers, if I look at my products are also always even. And I have more than 2 examples. I have 8 examples here. So that would be my answer. When I multiply 2 even factors, my product is also going to be even. Okay, let's look at another one. Here's my next one. And it says, what happens when 2 odd factors are multiplied together? So 2 odd factors are multiplied together. And my keyword there is odd. And you might be surprised by this one. So it says, use the multiplication table to determine your answer and give 2 examples to support your answer. I'm going to have more than 2, but let's see. So my odd numbers are 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. And on this side, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. So let's see what happens when I multiply 2 odds together. Well, 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 9 is 27. 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 7 is 35. Let's do another one, like 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 9 is 63. Okay, we have quite a few there. So when I multiply two odd numbers together, my product looks like it's also odd. The reason I said you might be surprised is in our last video, when we added two odd numbers, we actually got a sum that was even. But now our product is also odd. When I multiply two odd numbers together, my product is also odd. And here are a lot of examples that will prove that to me. So let's try some together. We are on page 236 for our first one. And it says, what happens when you multiply, sorry, let's make that straight. What happens when you multiply an odd and an even factor together? So this time they want us to multiply an odd and an even factor. So I need one odd and one even. So I think on the top, why don't we circle our odd numbers? So our odd is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. And my even factors on this side. So our 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. So let's see what happens when we multiply one odd times one even. Okay, so 1 times 2, let's try 3 times 4, 3 times 6, 3 times 8. Let's try 5 times 10. Maybe let's try 7 times 2. Let's try 7 times 6. Maybe let's try 9 times 4. Okay, so we have 8 of them. We have quite a few. So when I multiplied an odd factor by an even factor, my products are all even. Okay, so let's try another one of those together. We are on page 237, and here's our first problem. What happens when two double factors are multiplied together? And the example is 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4. So when I multiply two double factors, so when our factors are the same, what happens to that? Okay, so let's kind of look at that and see. So my first double would be 1 times 1. And we could kind of write that in. Maybe we'll write them in at the bottom as we go, just so we can kind of keep track. 1 times 1 equals 2. Equals 1. Oops, I'm so sorry about that. Okay, let's try 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so I'm going to write that in. 2 times 2 equals 4. Let's try 3 times 3 equals 9. 3 times 3 equals 9. 4 times 4 equals 16. 5 times 5 equals 25. You'll notice I'm writing them down here very specifically so we could talk about something. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. And let's do our last one. 8 times 8 is 64. So do you see any patterns there? What happens when two double factors are multiplied together? Well, what I noticed was if the double factors were odd, my products are odd. And if the double factors are even, my products are even. That would be what I notice when I do that. We also noticed this really cool pattern that we created on our multiplication chart. Okay, So what I want you to do, ladies and gentlemen, is pause the video, and I want you to work in your book on page 238 and 239. And then when you're done, I want you to continue the video because we are going to do a couple more problems together. Okay, so we are also going to be working on lesson 5 now. So I'm going to do a couple of these problems for you as well. Our objective's still going to be the same. We're going to be using a multiplication chart. Okay, so here's my first problem, and it says, what numbers come next in the pattern? What numbers come next in the pattern? Okay, so I'm going to use this multiplication chart. What do I see first here? I see that they give me 12, 24, 36, and 48. So I'm going to use this multiplication chart, and I'm going to look for these numbers in order. So see how these numbers are horizontal in order? I'm going to see if I can find them on the multiplication chart just like this. So 12, 24, 36, 48. So here's my multiplication chart, and I'm looking for those numbers. Okay, so I see a 12, but then it's a 14. That's not going to work. I see another 12, but it's a 16, but I need it to be 12, 24. So I keep looking. I see a 12, but then it goes to 18 before 24. And look where I see it, down here at the bottom. At the bottom, I see a 12, a 24, a 36, and a 48, just in order, exactly like they have it here. And that's what I'm looking for. So the 12, the 24, the 36, and the 48. So that tells me my next 3 numbers are going to be these next 3 numbers, which are 60, 72, and 84. And my rule was they were adding 12. And I'm able to use this to find that. Okay, let's look at our next one. Use the multiplication table to determine whether 5 times an even number always makes an even or an odd product. Okay, so what do they want? They want 5 times an even number. And they want to know, is it going to be an even or odd product? Okay, so I'm going to go back to my multiplication. I'm going to do 5 times an even number. So on the top, I might use my 5. And then let's use my even numbers down here. So 5 times an even number would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. So let's see what happens. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 4 is 20, which is an even. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 10 is 50, and 5 times 12 is 60. So my products were 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. Well, these products are all even. So my question said, use a multiplication table to determine whether 5 times an even number always makes an even or an odd product. My answer would be even. They're all even because they were 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60, which are all even numbers. Okay, let's try some of these together. So our first one we're going to be doing is on page 200.